Welcome to the lounge, everyone. My name is Toby Roydell, and today we will talk about our fears. In one of my last videos, I was talking about how everything in life can be a decision. You can decide everything. And I decided that I put this statement to the test today by asking one simple question. Is being afraid or not afraid of something just a decision? Can you decide to not be afraid of something, or can you decide to overcome your fear? When I was a kid, I was really afraid of being sent down into the cellar to pick up a sack of potatoes or to get a bottle or something like that. And especially when I went back upstairs, I was constantly turning my head because I had the feeling of something looming in the dark, something creeping on me, and I was constantly turning my head to trying to spot it in the dark. And when I was 12 years old, I was fed up. I had enough of that. So I decided I make a challenge for myself, and if I completed it, I decided for myself my fear was overcome. I set an alarm for myself for 12 o'clock midnight. And I went downstairs into the cellars, into the pitch black dark. And I went the same route as if I was to pick something up again. And then I walked back upstairs, and I did not turn my head one single time. And afterwards, because I completed my challenge I set for myself, my fear was overcome for myself. And to this day, whenever I walk up those stairs, I never turn my head around, because I know I survived this night at 12 o'clock midnight when I was 12 years old. So nothing could ever kill me or harm me because I completed that challenge back then. So the answer is yes. In some sense, I can decide to overcome my fear, to not being afraid anymore. This, of course, starts with accepting that I have fears. Yes, I'm afraid. Yes, I'm afraid of going down into the cellars when it's dark, when I was a kid. And I accept this fear, and I develop the feeling that I don't want this anymore, that I want to overcome it. And that's already halfway done to get to getting rid of a fear. But of course, there are more serious fears out there than just the dark of a cellar, of course. Because of that, I would divide in two kinds of fears. Number one, the uncomfortable situation. This situation is marked by stress, more or less intense stress, like having an exam or something like that. The uncomfortable situation happens probably every other day, and is something like, and is mostly linked to some social interactions, like getting to know new people, having interactions, asking for something, or even having a job interview. Number two is anxieties and phobias. These are the highest levels of fear, where you probably completely freeze when you're confronted with the situation and lose control over it. The fear has taken over body and mind. Although many people realize that this intensity of fear is irrational and just way over the top, they just don't have a way of coping with it, of dealing with it. So that's the definition pretty much of a phobia. But what I believe is most people, when it comes to phobias, or really intense anxieties, most people think about a phobia of spiders or really intense anxiety of heights, for example. Which I do not think that these are the most serious kinds of fears. I would say one of the most common, really intense fears of many people today is conflict. People are really afraid of conflict and arguments and try to avoid it whenever possible. More on that, by the way, in the next video in 2 weeks, conflicts. You don't want to miss it. I also guess it is needless to say that fears differ in intensity and people. Of course, for someone, the job interview, which in my case would be an uncomfortable situation, for some people that could be the worst thing that happened to them ever. Of course. And there are some people who don't care about spiders or heights. It's not a big deal, of course, because fears differ in everybody. Every time that I'm uncomfortable with a situation, this is the only thing I need. I realize that this situation is uncomfortable, that I'm afraid of something, and I try to immediately accept it and tell myself. I tell myself, Toby, you're afraid of something, it's uncomfortable for you, and that's the reason why you have to do it. So you stand up now, walk over now, and solve it now. Sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes I can't quite make myself do it with just realizing it. Then I start taunting myself. And then I have to tell myself, Toby, you coward. How are you such a crybaby? Other people solve this in seconds. How can you be so weak and fearful? Now get up your ass and move it over there. And then I do it. It helps me. I taunt myself and then I get myself ready for the situation and then I just do it. Now wait, this took me years. Because it needs to be practiced. Just like in the little example I told you back when I was 12 years old. We need to learn with the small fears, the manageable ones, so that over time the big horrors and terrors that really make us jump out of our skin become more manageable over time. But when we start so late or too late, we have probably no way of dealing, of coping with the big terrors, the big horrors. A simple example would be if you're afraid of dogs, or your friend is afraid of dogs and you want to help him, you would always start with a little cute puppy, not with a Rottweiler. I always tell myself, Toby, if you do this now, if you pull it off, you can be proud of yourself, because you did it, and you did not let your fear stop you. So my name is Toby Roydell, and I will see you again next time here in my lounge.